All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland to industry leading brand. If you are now tuned in live, you already know what to do. Number one, put some flames in the comments. So if you're viewing this on Facebook, put some flames in. LinkedIn, put some flames, and of course, YouTube, put some flames in. All right, today I have with me Mr. Sean Raiz, and we'll be talking about something very, very interesting. We'll be talking about branding, but not the branding that you know. We'll be talking about how can somebody move up in or up out of an organization. All right, so and by the way, let us know where you're listening in from. We're gonna do a few quick shout outs in a minute, but first of all, put your flames. Let us know where you're listening in from, and let's get started. Shan, what's up?
Hey, phenomenal morning, guys. Listen, it's an episode that really kind of resonates, touches home because I'm actually speaking with an organization later this week. Yeah, later this week. And it was kind of proposed to me by someone on the team, like, how are we doing branding inside of an organization? And I think they understood branding as being only entrepreneurial, right? So I want to kind of dispel the myth of personal slash professional branding and how building your personal brand will not only help you in your business, but it'll help you handle your business if you're inside of an organization. So we don't only help people move out of their organization, we also help people move up in. And that's why I'll be speaking at a government organization actually. And then earlier the same week, there's a lot of flights this week. Earlier this week, I'll be speaking with the Society of Human Resources Management. It's definitely organizational on individuals within organizations and human resources specifically.
That sounds super exciting, man. Listen, a lot of people they always tell me branding. They equate branding to business. Okay, so I think it's gonna be very, very interesting to talk
Definitely.
about how somebody could build an organizational brand. So, you know, the truth is, Shan, most people they don't really want to get into business,
Oh,
but
I know.
they don't really want to do business, but they want to build a brand. They want the influence, they want the impact, they want the ability to touch lives, right? So I think it's going to be very interesting and very useful for the people who want to build a brand. So you want the income, you want the impact, but you don't necessarily want to go out there and sort of do your own thing, because that's super tough, as we know. So that's going to be super interesting to hear and to see.
One of the phenomenal things, I think we have Coach B on the call. She's one of the listeners, and Coach B was actually an instructor of mine at in a former lifetime, right? And it was like almost a decade ago now, a decade, maybe a little bit more. I was actually studying under her tutelage, getting credentials and understanding more about counseling, right? And the phenomenal thing, and the reason why I mention it is because I built a personal brand. I had a personal brand in that school. There was a brand around me. There was an energy around me, even back then in that school setting. And I've always created a brand everywhere I've gone, organizationally, industrially, in every touch point. Whether it was, if you knew me from the neighborhood, you knew my brand, like you knew my energy, you knew the experience of, you knew what you were going to get when you came around me. I was trustworthy, loyal, had integrity, honor, discipline, hardworking, ethical, all of those different connotations that equate into the brand. And the beautiful thing is that in business, it's no different. It's the same situation. See, and this is why you're known. This is why you get attention. You have the brand, you are the brand. And then if you don't market your brand, nobody knows your name. And I want to get more into this when we come back, because you do not have to have your own business to have six figures and multiple six figures within a year. I mean, even Jalita Robinson, she's a phenomenal client, and she came in less than a month, guys, in less than 30 days. She was super, how do you say, locked in, dialed in, knew what she wanted, took the principles of branded like a leader and applied those to her persona within the organization, and was able to double her income to multiple six figures. It's multiple six figures in less than 30 days. Taking the principles that we teach in branded like a leader and activating them within the organization. People need to know your name, and you have to conduct yourself as if you're under the microscope, because you always are. And these are the bench point, the benchmarks and the earmarks of success as an individual within an organization and as an entrepreneur or CEO in your business. If you don't have a personal brand, nobody knows you exist, and you'll be on the same job checking the box for 20 years and get that yearly incremental 0.02% raise.
That's right, guys. More on that when we come back. We'll be taking a short break. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. When we come back, we'll be talking more about moving up in or moving up out of your organization. Mr. B, let's take that break.
Bro.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland to industry leading brand. And today we're talking about branding with a twist. We're talking about how you could build a brand that allows you to move up in or up out of your organization. Of course, I have with me the man himself, Sean. So, Sean, let's talk about it.
That's funny. You said branding with a twist. Branding
Branding with a
with
twist.
a twist. I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
So
branding with a twist.
one thing that I said before I went to the we went to the break was that Coach B, right, who we know as Coach B, live. Coach B, put your credentials in the chat and the name of your organization. I know it's life, but I want to know more. Right. So I said that I had a brand when I was under her tutelage and others within the framework of counseling. Right. And this was her response, you know, that I certainly had and have had a brand even when I began. Right. So we talking about 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, when she knew me in the inner city of New York, helping people within organizations deal with chemical dependency, anger issues, problematic, basically performance, getting people ready for the workforce. So it was really workforce development, but it was also substance abuse, criminal behavior, and all of those things, serving the underserved population. There was a couple things that I did that stood out. There was a couple things that I did that stood out within that context. One of them was showing up early. So I always showed up early. When I say early, I was the first one there. I was waiting for them to open the door. Always. I mean, I did not miss a day. I didn't miss one day. We were there for like 4 to 6 months, and I didn't miss a day. I was always early. I always had a cheerful demeanor. Now, watch this. Prior to that, I was in another situation where I was told that I had to smile because remember where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the subterranean, right? I'm coming from Harlem, Harlem, right? So I don't smile. I'm antisocial. I'm all of these different things, and I was told that I was intimidating and a little bit rough around the edges. So I had to polish myself. I had to work on me. And one of the things specifically that I was told was that I scowled at people and intimidated them. And I said, wow. Now let me like this is so important. This is so important. I had a little bit of a background where I spent a lot of time in the gym, right? I spent a lot of time in the gym. So I was a little bit bigger than I am now. Um, and along with my along with my cheerful demeanor at the time it tied together like this guy is huge and he's angry, right? He's huge and he's not happy. So those things put together was pretty scary, pretty menacing. And I said, well, I'm about to go from where I'm from into corporate. And I had to make not a code switch, but a compromise. I had to fit. Right. So this is Coach B's phenomenal organization. And trust me, when it comes to counseling, coaching, therapy, mentoring, just being a professional all around, like she's it. Like she's it. She's one of those people that was instrumental in my development when I was younger, right? And this was before she even professionalized. The beautiful thing about coaching and education and peer groups and mentoring and growth and development is that I came in as a student of hers and she's one of the phenomenal clients and branded like a leader. So the beautiful thing is that when you're humble and you grow yourself, it's mutual. It's mutual. You go from a client or from a student to a peer, right? And sometimes even a coach or a mentor, and it's personal development is a phenomenal place, guys. So I just wanted to shout out Coach B definitely for being instrumental in my development. And she knows in so many different ways how that took place. But the point here is that I built a brand. I made changes. I made shifts. I changed my workout to lose a little bit of muscle mass, so I wouldn't be. I'm speaking at SHRM, the Society for Human Resources Management. You can't go in there swollen. like you're like you're at Muscle Beach in California. You understand? You just can't. And then I'm a black man too. So I'm black, I'm huge, and I might be a little bit of aggressive if you'd have caught me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, before I learned how to moderate and modify, right? And brand myself. I was like, what is the brand? The brand can't be, you know, looking super huge and intimidating, look like I'm standing at a door like a bouncer at 3 o'clock in the morning in the city of New York. No, I had to moderate. I had to be professionalized, guys. I had to professionalize my brand, right? And because I did that and was always at the door early, smiling, cheerful, helping people, stayed late, always did more. I sat in one position. I want you to understand how deep it is. Like inside of the school, I sat in one chair, top, front right. On the left side, but front right, which meant every time the teacher had to go through the aisle, I was right there on the corner. Didn't move, didn't budge for nothing. Everybody knew that was Sean C. Everybody knew when they got there, Sean was already going to be there in my book, studying. Didn't smoke, didn't drink. There were certain things that I did that made me different, guys. What do you do in your organization that makes you different? I'm going to tell you a little bit later about how that benefited me organizationally, making 70, 90K a year, and how that happened so fast in the city with all eyes on you.
That was a really powerful question, Sean, that you just said there. What are you doing to differentiate yourself?
Yes, in your
Let,
business.
yeah, let's talk about how that relates to branding. So let's just redefine. So not redefine, but define in fact. What is a brand? Number one.
A
So
brand
what
is
is a
a
brand?
brand is how people think about you when you're not in the room. Simply put, simply put, a brand is how people think about you when you're not in the room. What they say about you, the image that comes to their mind, their experience of you, and all of it goes into play. So the sub particles, the sub particles of a brand are like, you'll say logo or color, but it's also how you dress, how you present, your language, how you speak, how people experience you. A brand
So
is an experience, it's a feeling, it's an emotion.
right. Right. So now with that being said, doesn't everybody already have a brand?
Yes, they
Like, do
do.
you have to try to build a brand?
You want to be mindful of the brand that you're building because everybody has a brand. The only question is your brand serving you? Listen, I know people who have been in the same organization, same situation, massive skills, multifaceted skills, college degrees, all of it. But the fact that their brand is not the most palatable for upper echelon, they remain at 30, 40K. They never move up. They laterally move. They promote them laterally, which means they're in the same department, making around the same pay grade, just in a different position. But they do not move
Right.
up in the hierarchy or on the organizational chart. They remain in the same level.
Right. Now, when we talk about branding ourselves as leaders or going through the branded like a leader process, what you're saying is it has to be a conscious effort, right? So everybody already has a brand, but the very act of branding yourself, right, means that you're consciously creating a perception.
There you
This is
go.
what's what I'm hearing.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You're taking an active part in the phenomenon that's already taking place. You don't have to you don't have to look far. If you're inside of an organization, just look on the floor. Look on the floor and see who's doing what, who's bringing coffee, who's shaking hands. Listen, in speaking, we call it shaking hands and kissing babies. Who's relatable? Who's associating? Who's networking? Who's moving up? You can tell when people come into listen, I have come into organizations as an intern and blown past people who've been there for 10 years in position, in authority and leadership, and in salary. and then moved on out of the organization because they couldn't pay me enough or hold me because my brand was growing so big.
Interesting. So what then is the difference between a let's say like a regular entrepreneurial brand and then an organizational brand?
Simple. The entrepreneur, and let me say this too. Let me say this too, because there's micro and there's macro ways to look at this. On a micro way to look at this, an entrepreneur exists outside of the organization. But on a macro level, realistically, when you walk into an organization with your resume, you're an entrepreneur. You're selling something. You're selling your time. You're walking in to create value and mutual beneficial exchange. When you're in an organization, you're still an entrepreneur. That's the right way to look at it. You're still an entrepreneur because your tenure or your time there and your salary, your mobility, your security is based on your ability to perform. The moment you perform wrong, you're gone. The same way in your entrepreneurial venture, if I fail to achieve the objectives that I've set, the benchmarks that I've set, if I fail to perform, I'm out of contracts there too.
Wow. So I wanna hear from the people watching, guys. How many of you understand? If you understand what Sean is saying, put a number one in the chat if you understand, because this is some really interesting and powerful stuff. So put a number one if you understand what Sean is saying here. So so what you're saying, Sean, basically is the employee is basically an entrepreneur. That's what I hear you saying.
Of course they are. Their value or their product is their time. That's the difference between an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur outside of the organization doesn't want to sell their time anymore. They want to sell systems and values and outcomes and results. They're not in the business of selling their time anymore. That's the difference. Now, it takes time to build the systems, the brand professionally and personally. It takes time to build those systems and those structures and the team and all of those different things that can exist without the time of the leader. But that's the goal. The goal is to buy back your time.
Very interesting.
And let me
Yeah,
say
it's
this too.
uh-huh.
Hold on for a minute. Don't be a passive. Sometimes people are passive aggressive. Don't be a passive watcher of this. If you're in an organization and you're trying to build your brand or add some zeros to your salary, comment on it. Ask a question. You branding will help you in the organization. Go ahead. I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the people they do appreciate that. They do appreciate the clarity. So guys, definitely, I mean, if you do have a question, if you do have something that you want to say about what he's talking about, if you do disagree, definitely put it in the chat. This is your show, right? So don't
That's
feel
right.
scared. Just put it in the comments. I'm learning it. I'm taking notes while Shan is speaking. So I'm always a student wherever I go. Doesn't matter how many times that I've heard it before. I've heard Brandon so many times, but I'm still taking notes and I'm still learning something in this conversation, right? So the next question is for the person who I guess doesn't really want to go into, but because we just said that an employee is an entrepreneur, basically, it's all about the perception and their perspective. So for the employee who wants to build a brand, an organizational brand, what are some of the steps? Now, when you said that you came in as an intern and you
Yeah.
shot past a lot of people because of your brand, you specifically attributed that to your brand, right?
Yes.
So my question number one is, what was the difference between you? We're talking about branding now. I know, of course, you show up early, right? You said a couple things there. So you show up early, you work hard, and we know not everybody does that, right? So that's obviously a difference. But when it comes to your brand, what is the difference? What was the difference in
I'm
your
so glad.
brand
I'm so glad that
that
you
made
asked.
you? go up the ladder like that?
I'm so glad that you asked. This is one of the things that everybody knows about me, right? One of the things that everybody knew about me was this. Of course, in the beginning, I didn't have my own books, but I was always in a book. I was always reading. Everybody knew that I was a lifelong learner because I was in college and everybody knew it. I was in college, everybody knew it. I was traveling always from Long Island or whatever the case may be. I always had a computer because I'm in college. So when people went to do the smoke breaks and the lunchroom shenanigans like they did in high school or whatever the case may be, I was in college. I was on my computer. I wasn't getting in the how do you say? I wasn't hooking up on the in the job. I was plugging into the Wi-Fi and concentrated and focused. I didn't have time for idle chit chat, gossip. I was focused, tunnel vision, locked in. Always helpful, always knowledgeable, always learning more about the organization, its mission, vision, and value statements. I was always trying to find out the history of the organization, the history of the people that I worked with. I studied the leadership. I made relationships and studied the leadership. I didn't relate so much with people who were, I was always kind to everyone, always kind, always generous. However, I did not focus my time on the people who were structurally beneath this position that I had. I focused my attention on the people who were above the position that I had and not schmoozing or brown nosing, but to find out what it was. I studied leadership personally and professionally. Literally, when I went into college, I'm studying leadership. I'm studying leadership now, but I studied the people who were in positions above me and had conversations to find out what it was about them. Well, how did they get there? What did they do? How long were they in the organization? What education did they take? What steps did they take? What trainings did they take? This is how I got skilled in Lean Six Sigma because I studied leadership, management, and waste management and how to make an organization lean and how to build an organization and keep teams functioning. I was always a student of leadership and I always over delivered within my position. I always made myself, watch this, guys. You might want to write this down. I always did the jobs that I wasn't paid to do yet. So what would happen is people above my pay grade would seek me out for help on a project or for how to properly do a project. The first thing, if someone was overworked or there was a project outside of someone's scope, the first thing they would say in any organization I was in was, "Where's Sean?" And that's what you want to become. You want to become indispensable. That was always the framework. Where's Sean? Where's Sean? Number one, I don't miss work, so I'm always there. Number two, I'm not hiding out. I'm not somewhere on my phone, so I'm where I'm supposed to be. And number three, I'm always helpful. I'm always ready to let's go. Let's get it done, get it done, get it done because it's bigger than me. The same things that I do within my own organization.
Very nice. Now, guys, we're gonna take a break. In about 60 seconds, we're gonna go to a short break. But if you do have any questions, just put them in the comments. Don't forget to like this, share this out to all of your friends, share it on Facebook, YouTube, of course, LinkedIn. We'll
When
be
we come
back.
back, when we come
Right.
back, I'm going to tell a specific story, Junior, that's going to illustrate everything we've been talking about.
Right. All right, Mr. B, let's go to that break. All right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland industry leading brand. Shan, I think you have a story to tell.
Yes, I do. So watch this, guys. This is super interesting, right? So I'm a consultant, and I was consulting with the state of New York in one position. This is very important. Please pay attention to this. I over delivered. And I think, like Danielle says here, so I over delivered within the organization in my consultancy role, and I became indispensable to the organization. Now, as a consultant, sometimes you come in and you do one thing, fix one problem, but the delivery, the delivery of the value was so good. They put me on a retainer, right? So I'm on a retainer, and I want you to think of yourself as a consultant because literally your salary is a retainer. You're looking at this the wrong way. If you were in the right mind frame, you probably put a zero behind your number already. You probably have a zero behind your number already, but because you say to yourself, well, they only pay me for this, so I'm only going to do this. And they don't, I'm just an employee here and I don't really matter. Because of that mindset, you're not going anywhere except out of there. They're literally working to replace you. And every HR department keeps a stack of resumes on deck to replace you because your mindset is wrong. Very wrong. So anyway, as a consultant, because I had the title consultant and the education of what consultative practice was, I solved the specific problem. And after the initial contract of solving the specific problem and the manner of excellence, the standard of excellence in which I did, they came to me with a retainer proposition. And it made sense. I said, okay, this is the bread that I'm looking for. This is the quality of life that I want. I'm free. I have my time. And I don't want to be bound to any certain thing. I like my freedom. I'm in school. I said, okay, great, let's do this. So I'm doing the assignment, the contract, and I'm fulfilling it in such a manner of excellence that when that was completely solved within that organization, it was time for me to go and continue to put my hang my shingle and move on, take time off, or go somewhere else and do the phenomenal work that I do somewhere else with another organization. And what happened was I was contacted and contracted with an organization that worked dependently in tandem with the organization that I was at previously. So I'm working at one organization, and part of the consultancy work that I did, it was noticed by other organizations. I want you to write this down and think. Your brand precedes you. Your brand precedes you and your work. Every work, every word. When you get dressed in the morning, it's called marketing. It's called marketing. And if you do this the right way, then you're marketing like a leader. So watch this. I'm doing a phenomenal work with one organization. And because of the phenomenal work that I'm doing, another organization that does business with them is getting a phenomenal experience based on my part. So when I leave, quality drops. And the other organization is like, hold on, something just happened. We've been working with you for 2 years, 2.5 years, and there's never been a problem. Why did the quality drop all of a sudden? And this organization contacted this organization to find out the reason why the quality dropped. It was found out that was because Sean was gone. So I get a call from this organization and this organization, and they're like, this organization says, I want you to come back. This organization says, I want you to come over here and do contract work over here. We will add a zero to your number. We will add a zero to your number. This organization is like, well, we lost you and we're getting complaints. Can you please come back on this retainer? So what's going on in effect right now is a bid war between two organizations for my consultancy services. And I sat back and looked at it like, and that's when it really smashed me over the head, what I had been building for so long. And what I had been building for so long, because when they called me like they knew me. This organization called me like they knew me. Why? Because they did. Why? Because of the quality of the experience they had, even though I never heard of them, even though we never met, because they experienced me over here. They felt like they knew me. They called me and said, hey, is Sean there? And I'm like, this is he. Hey, Sean. And the conversation took place like we were the best of buddies for the past 2 years. And they're like, hey, man, we really need you. We've been working with you for the past. I'm like, no, you haven't. They're like, yes, we have, because we're the receiver of these services over here at this organization. And as soon as you left, everything dropped when your contract was over. We understand that you're a consultant. We understand that you're high priced. We'd like to add some numbers to that price and da 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 da. And I'm like, I built a personal brand. Not only did I build a personal brand, but through the experience, I had been actively marketing myself. Unbeknownst to me. Unbeknownst to me, I had been actively marketing myself. Listen, if you do this the right way, like I said, I have one client. I have one client who came in. She saw me at a speaking event. She came in branded like a leader, and she immediately activated everything that she learned immediately within the organization, and was able to go and almost double her salary into the multiple six figures within less than 30 days. I've had other people that have left the organization because the organization can't pay them, and they get more money and they got more freedom. It doesn't make a difference your business model. I want you to understand that. It doesn't make a difference your business model. You literally, the person who is excellent in what they do and provides a professional service professionally is indispensable anywhere they go. Anywhere they go, you can wake up on the moon. Excellence is in high demand. Excellence is in high demand. And you can write your number, you can write your ticket. It's not about what people are giving, it's about what you're delivering. You are always in control. So if you're an employee right now working in the post office, I want you to think, how can I add excellence to the experience? How can I become indispensable? If you're at a pay grade, let's say your pay grade is $35 an hour, there's someone on your job making $70 an hour. Someone. Your job as a detective, as an investigator, as a professional is to find out what they do. And just like people go to YouTube to find out a solution to a problem, I used to go to my supervisor's office. Like what I did the same thing with Coach B. I went to the people who were in a position of power and leadership, and I shadowed them. This is the I'm talking about unpaid internship. I'm just walking around like, how can I help? Let me do some things. Coach B let me do some of my first presenting in front of the classroom. And now I'm being paid to speak at Sherm. And then I'm going to New York to speak for the government. You don't understand the long-term vision that you're supposed to have, no matter what position you have right now. The position you have right now does not need to be the position that you have in 10 years. People are giving up way too soon, and they're not taking their power seriously. But watch this. An organization is no more than the sum of its parts, which means an organization without people is just a building. The organization is dependent upon you. And if you're excellent,
Mhm.
excellence is in high demand and small amounts.
Very, very powerful. Guys, put some flames in the chat if you enjoyed that. Shan, I have a very interesting question.
What's that?
So we work with many professionals who are in organizations, and they always tell me, right? They always tell me, well, I'm working with this organization. I want to build a brand, but I'm not sure how to go about it without the organization feeling like I'm going to leave. So in other words, they're not comfortable putting themselves out there. Like, for example, they might not want to put themselves out there on LinkedIn, they might not want to put themselves out on Facebook, that sort of thing. Because I guess from the vantage point that they're looking at it, it seems as if the organization might interpret that as them, I guess, making an exit out of the organization, if that makes sense.
It does.
So for the leader who wants to build a brand, but who doesn't necessarily, or not, doesn't want to put themselves out there, but they're not sure how to do it, or if it's even the right thing to do, that can be super uncomfortable. Okay, so how do you navigate that?
Brand yourself on the inside. You build your brand on the inside and you become an ambassador. So watch this. Brand ambassador. Brand ambassador. So I know a gentleman who went into a position of state as an intern. As an intern, contract work. Contract had a limit on it. It was only supposed to be up to this point. But he didn't think of the work he was contracted to do. He thought of the work that was indispensable. He thought of the work that he wasn't contracted to do. He thought of the ways, and he studies leadership with me, right? So he studies leadership. He's a student of leadership, a steward of leadership. He sees what we do all the time. And he goes into a position as an intern on a contractual basis, and he utilizes the high level principles that he learned here in at every opportunity and in every interval, right? So he's answering questions that the leadership there doesn't even know to ask. He's doing things that come straight from a double doctorate in industrial and organizational psychology and organizational development and change. He's making himself indispensable, right? He becomes an ambassador of, not outside of, has his own business, but not outside of, inside of. He's making himself an ambassador of. He's a spokesman for. Now you become the face of the brand, and your personal brand enhances the organizational brand. This is how you move into a director position, a leadership position, a manager position, a spokesman position. You can go from an employee to a contractor and to a consultant, literally. in a small amount of time. So what this person did was he made himself indispensable to the leadership. He built his brand all over the place. So everybody knows this individual, knows him by name. He's helpful, he's cheerful. I remember Brian Tracy saying that you can get paid. No, Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn said you could get paid $5 if you flip fries. No, he said if you take out the garbage at McDonald's, you can make $5. And he said it with his funny little twang. He said, but you can make $6 if you whistle. It's how you do the quality and the quantity that you do and the quality in which you do it. It's all about the experience. It's all about the brand. You can make $5 taking out the garbage and think that, I'm just here taking out the garbage. Nobody notices me. But if you whistle while you work, people notice your cheerful demeanor and you make people feel better. Just smiling. That was one of the most indispensable tools and recommendations that a woman gave me while I was building my brand more than a decade ago. Just showing you need to smile. For real, you intimidate people. So I used to sit in front of the mirror, guys, when I was like super poor and broke. And I used to sit, but I wasn't broke in potential. I was broke in kinetic because I wasn't activating the powers and the impact and the energy that was inside of me. However, when I chose to become mindful of this and embody brand, I would sit in front of the mirror and just practice like. It didn't fit my face. It didn't fit my face. I promise you, it was super uncomfortable. It did not fit my face, but I learned how to make it fit. So anyway, the individual becomes indispensable for the situation, and now they're in a leadership position. They went from a contractor to a contracted to a leadership position in absolutely no time. Right? And this can happen for anyone. Anyone on this call hearing this now, here, or later can completely change your positioning within the organization before next year and set yourself up for 2023 to be the best year you've ever had. It doesn't make a difference how old you are. It doesn't make a difference your education level. So watch this. Your hard skill or your degree might get you the interview and might get you the position. But your soft skills and the experience that you bring to it will keep you in the organization and move you up. That's branding.
Right. That's right. And on that note, I think we need a short break. When we come back, guys, we'll be talking more about branding. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. We'll get to them once we come back. Let's go. All right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand. If you've enjoyed the show so far, put some flames in the chat. All right. If you have any questions, also put them in the comments as well. So, Shan, let's bring it back. This has been super interesting, particularly the last part. I know, and I want to send a quick shout out to everybody viewing. I see Danielle. Shout out to you, Tasha, Jackie, Coach B. I know this has been very instrumental and very interesting for a lot of professionals that are viewing. I had to ask that question. Now, there's also one other question that I have to ask on behalf of these professionals, right? So you answered the first question about, okay, how do you build that brand? The next question I get asked is, okay, well, there are other services that I want to offer that may, I guess, exceed the scope of the organization that I'm in. So the organization may be doing one thing, but I want to continue to perform my role at the organization. Okay. But there are also some other things that I would like to offer to the general public, meaning that they're not within the scope of the organization. So, how does one navigate that? Building the brand on the inside, but I guess also sort of tapping into the outside.
There's multiple ways that you can do this. So one of the things that I always did was I always formed relationships with management and leadership. Always, always. And I don't mean the normal rote leader, consultant, subordinate relationship. I never saw myself that way. The way you train people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. And you train people how to perceive you by the way you perceive yourself. So I always perceive myself as an equal with everyone. And my conversations always took that kind of shape. Right. So I over delivered. So I deserved the attention that I requested. I earned it. Right. So if I ever said I want to have a meeting or I want to sit down and talk, that was like a given. Of course, no problem. And communicate, guys. Communicate what your desires are. If you don't have a professional plan in place, like a 5-year plan within an organization, I don't even want to work with anyone who doesn't have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? Right. I don't want to check the box employee. That's like organizational and growth sabotage. You're not going anywhere. If you're not going anywhere, then the organization isn't going to go anywhere while you're here. Right. So I want you to think of that in your terms of leadership and how you communicate with your leadership. So the reason why I say all of those things, because those are precursors and prerequisites to what I'm about to say now. Speak to your leadership and let them know. So many times there's so much opportunity within organizations, but you're not the person that can do it or would do it or has the demeanor to do it or the skill set to do it or the mindset to learn it. So they won't bring you opportunity. But the opportunity could exist. Or they know someone or another department or a different subsidiary where that opportunity could be. At the very least, if you communicate it, then they might say, okay, well, based on the contract that you signed when you came into the organization, you can't do it this way, but you can do it this way. One of those ways would be, instead of being Joe Schmo, employee of Acme Company, you can LLC up and be B Corp, and through B Corp provide your services with individuals. An Acme Company has no business, or there's no reason why they should know or be interested in what B Corp is doing. It's not Joe Schmo. Super simple, super simple. But I think it's what I tell people all the time too. Like, your best upsell is with the people that you're already working with. Your best upsell is with the people that you're already working with. So if people are already paying you, that's your best way or fastest way to make more money. Speak to those individuals and ask for what else you can possibly do. How can I add more value? How can I grow in this organization? Do you have any more opportunities for me? Finish your work fast. And when you're done, don't play on YouTube or play Bubble Pop or whatever the video games are now, Snapchat, Whatever that nonsense is, take your life, your brand, your opportunities seriously and show that you're moving in a space of excellence. You're done with your work fast, and then you're asking for more responsibilities. You get what you ask for. But watch this, you'll get more responsibilities, but you'll also get more royalties and revenue as a result. You'll get more respect, more revenue, and you'll be perceived. If not, the reality will be that you become indispensable and they have to move you up. Because once you, this is the play, right? So this is the play, this is the chess move. The chess move is to add more value than anyone around you. The chess move is to become indispensable within the organization. And then if you don't see people respecting you or offering you more work, then begin to network, travel, speak to people, find out what other opportunities exist, and then come back to your organization and say, hey, I happen to have an offer over here because they appreciate the value that I can possibly add. And there's an offer for my services at 40K plus what I'm making here. Now, I've been here for 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and I have a home here and I wouldn't want to leave. But I do have a family. I do have dreams. I do have goals. I do have a book. I do have a phenomenal education, and I've gotten a degree since I've been here. I've trained with Sean Wright East, and I've gotten this competency, this competency, this competency. Are you ready to fund me to provide more value the way I've been doing, or must I? You understand?
Yeah.
And after providing the extra value for 7 months, they've had a taste, they've had a sample of what you can do. If they choose not to compensate you, then the shift is not a foul move. The shift is what needs to take place. That's it. Very simple. No harm, no foul. Nobody feels like you went, like, listen, it's a free market, free enterprise. That's what capitalism means, free enterprise. It's a competitive market. Compete. What happens is it's a competitive market. People are competitive until they get the assignment. People are competitive until they get the assignment. Once they get the assignment, they're like, got the job now. And the next thing you know, they're complaining about the compensation and the benefits they don't get. But if they stay competitive after getting the assignment, they'll move up. People lose their bite once they get the assignment. Once they get the assignment, they get complacent. And then their organization notices their dip in productivity, their dip in enthusiasm. Now they're showing up late instead of smiling and saying good morning. Now they're like, I'm here. And they become easily replaceable. So watch this. As a brand, you're either indispensable or easily replaceable.
That was super powerful. Guys, listen, we're rounding up. Okay, so I think it's
Hold
actually
on, let me say one
9
more thing.
a.m.
I'm sorry. I got to say one
Yeah.
more thing. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're easily replaceable on your job, you will be easily replaceable in your business. Excellence is a standard. Excellence is a standard. It's a culture. You either are or you're not. You can't be a super underperformer on your job because you only get paid X and then be a phenomenal leader in your business. It's not going to happen because you don't have the leadership qualities. Leaders lead from wherever they are. The janitor can be a leader and move up. I've been in positions as an intern where I didn't get paid anything. Showed up early, stayed late till they gave me the keys within under 90 days, gave me the keys to the organization. Everything depended on me. Took the petty cash home and wasn't petty about it. Listen, if I did not exude or exemplify or provide excellence in those positions, I wouldn't provide excellence here. I wouldn't know what excellence was.
That's right. And on that note, I'll say, never forget that you take you everywhere you go with you. All
Right?
right, guys, this has been Breakfast with the Brand. I hope you have a phenomenal day. Thank you so much. Let's
Don't
go.
miss that link. Hold on. Put that link in the chat, Mr. B. If you
Oh,
guys
yes.
anything, if you want to see more excellence, see more phenomenality, see what it shows, what it looks like when it shows up, don't miss the Leadership Live Deep Dive at 5 later on today. Pleased to be in your service. Let's grow.